Peace and love, family. Welcome to another powerful discussion with your sister, Dr. Maat. Before I get today's discussion started, I got to make a few announcements. I always start at the top with announcements. And so, family, make sure that you enroll your child in the UACI STEM Camp. This is a collaborative initiative established between Conscious Ingenuity and the Ahuvu Academy with the objective to increase African American participation in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And so, family, this is a dynamic camp. Our children are exposed to our contributions, right? The contributions we made to the growth and expansion of STEM. They are exposed to cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. And it's virtual, family. It's virtual. So literally, we've had kids around the country, even around the world, who have attended this camp. So, family, make sure that you get your child enrolled in the winter cycle. All right. And all you have to do is come on over here to uacistemcamp.com. Let me throw this link in the chat for you. I'm going to throw the link in the chat for you, family. Hold on. So here's the link. And also, family, I am going to put it on the screen, okay? So go to uacistemcamp.com. Get your child enrolled in the winter cycle. The winter cycle starts on December the 23rd and ends on December the 30th. And no, we won't be there on Christmas Day. All right, and if you come over to the website, you'll learn about the program, okay, and what we teach. You'll be exposed to our 2024 graduates, and you see we're in their deep, family, the instructors and their profiles. And then also, family, you'll hear parent testimonials about the program and what it has done to shape their child's interest and confidence in STEM. You can see we're powered by Morgan State University. Shout out to Morgan State University CAP Center, which is one of the top cybersecurity research centers in the U.S. All right. So, family, make sure you come on over here. And all you got to do is just click the link to register for the winter cycle. Okay. And if you don't catch the winter cycle, hopefully you'll catch the spring and the summer winter cycle. But slots are limited. We have 30 slots. And I think most of those slots are gone, family. So make sure that you get your child enrolled as soon as possible. And also, family, make sure that you head on over here to MELTREK365.com to get your MELTREK films and MELTREK books. And for those of you who are not familiar with MELTREK, remember, Mel is short for melanin. Trek means journey. So we're taking your children on a journey to learn about the history of melanated people. I think I butchered that. So let me say that again. Mel is short for melanin. Trek means journey. So we're taking your child on a journey to learn about the history of melanin people, right? Melanated people, Black African people, Ashe. And so, family, make sure that you head on over here to MELTREK 365. And right now we're living in a climate where they're rewriting history. And now, look, they're not even rewriting history at this point. Some of them did, but now they're eliminating it. They're like, we're not going to even teach it. Okay. And they're eliminating books on Black history, curricula by, curricula that focuses on Black history, family. So make sure that you get these tools to teach your child our history from our perspective. Our goals are to preserve our history, to develop an African worldview, to control our narrative, and also control our image. And family, when you scroll down to films, you see we offer 3 films: MELTREK Exploring Ancient Africa, which teaches our children that our history does not begin with enslavement and colonization. In MELTREK Episode 2, they learn about the Black and brown presence in the Americas prior to the arrival of Christopher Columbus. And in MELTREK Episode 3, learn about the origins of the transatlantic slave trade, right? Which we termed the Ma'afa, which was a part of the Ma'afa. Okay. And so they learn about that. And so, family, if you scroll down to films, if you click on any one of these films, it'll bring you to this page where you can download these films instantly. I see the Maadian family is trickling in. I want to acknowledge a couple of folks real quick. I see the Queen Mother, Marcia Pender's in the building. She said, I've been waiting for this interview since yesterday. She said, I voted early yesterday and was proud to cast my vote for Dr. Stein and Dr. Ware. Thank you so much, Sister Marcia Pender. Peace and love to you. I see Hotspot Casino is in the building. Peace and love to your family. I see you. Hotspot Casino said, hello, family. I see Iman is in the building. Issam said, Queen Mother, have you made history this election cycle? I'm not sure what you mean. You have to explain that to me. I see who else we got in the village. I see the African Village of Return is in the building. I shade to you, family. Thank you so much for pulling up. So, family, without further ado, let's bring on a warrior. Man, I'm so excited. My words, I'm getting tongue twisted. Let's bring on this mighty warrior. You seen a family. You seen her out there fighting, and standing on truth, standing 10 toes down on truth, telling those folks to their face, you all are supporting genocide, unapologetically telling these folks you're supporting genocide and I'm not going to stand for it. Telling them folks, family. And she's gone through a lot. That's why I call her a warrior. A lot of misinformation, disinformation, malinformation is out there. But guess what? She never wavered. She has never wavered from her agenda. And so without further ado, family, I'm going to bring on a mighty warrior, Dr. Jill Stein.
Let's combat and fight back with MELTREK. The war of the minds, they want control of the masses. And Common Core, they dumb us down in the classes. Without knowledge, we can't gain access. Build with the elders, take notes and write classes. We keep whining on the block, how it's gonna stop? Let's start supporting our own, make their supply drop. We buy stocks, then we buy blocks. Cause we know the truth and we tuned in to Dr. Maat.
A BB Fahodier, a BB Toomey, a BB Wan. Peace to all of my thinkers, truth speakers, and truth seekers. Welcome to another Truth to Power Talk with your sister, Dr. Maat. Thank you for joining another powerful discussion. And today I have with me a powerful guest, but she is no stranger to the community, to the nation, Dr. Jill Stein. Peace and love to you, warrior. How are you doing?
Peace and love to you, Sister Soldier. It's so great to be here with you, fighting the good fight as you have done forever, following in your footsteps here for standing up and being unapologetic here that we are, we are the future, we are the past, we are the politics of integrity, we are standing up against genocide and empire and colonialism abroad and here at home. This is one fight. This is one fight for one people, and we will not go down with the ship of the uniparty that is bought and paid for by AIPAC and the war machine and Wall Street. We are representing, we are of, by, and for the people. We are not taking the legalized corruption, the dollars to bribe your vote, to bribe your representation. We are standing up for the people, and we are unapologetic, and we are also unstoppable.
Come on, unstoppable. Family, take a moment out to thumb up this video. Thumb it up, thumb it up, thumb it up. Also, family, let's share this video. Let's get some more folks in these virtual seats. You all, if you heard her, you know that Dr. Stein is going to bring it, and she's going to bring it powerful and unapologetically. So let's share it. Share it with your friends. Let's share this stream with your friends, your social media friends, your real life friends, right? Your family. Let's get the word out that Dr. Stein is right here and she's sitting down with Dr. Maat and the family. And also, family, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so that whenever I go live, you will be notified. And also, family, make sure that you watch that Truth to Power Talk playlist that is on my channel. You just saw that I had on her VP, Dr. Butch Ware. He's been on, Dr. Cornell West, Dr. Abdul, and so many have come on this platform. So you can go back into the archives and watch those discussions. Dr. Stein, I want to jump right into this. I've seen you a lot, of course, on social media. You're everywhere. You're all over the internet, So as soon as someone goes to the internet, they type in your name, they see videos and articles. But I want to start by us discussing who is Dr. Jill Stein. And I want to start with your background, with your village that nurtured you to become who you are. So where are you from? And you've answered questions like this, but let's say that no one knows who you are. Where are you from? What type of upbringing were you exposed to? What type of education? I want to know everything, Dr. Stein, as much as we can in the next 45 minutes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maat. So I describe myself in brief as a mother on fire that is fighting to make the world safe for my children, who will not be safe unless all children are safe. As James Baldwin said, and I'm paraphrasing him here, all children everywhere belong to all of us.
That's
This
right.
is, this is like the moral imperative of the moment. Are we going to sit by while children are slaughtered and massacred and put into the meat grinder here on an industrial scale? No, we will not, and I totally do not understand. I cannot fathom anyone who is closing their eyes to this genocide that we are paying for. I mean, there are a couple genocides. Let's be clear about that. This is not the only one. There's a horrific genocide in Sudan, in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. There are terrible genocides going on. But this one we are paying for, and this one we can stop with a simple phone call. And it's only the outrage against our democracy that allows this to go on. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I grew up in a Jewish community, going to a Reform synagogue, singing in the children's choir. And this was like right after the Holocaust of the Jews. And our community was grappling with this question, is there life after genocide? And how does that happen? And for me and my family and my mother, who was actually the most like distraught about this, the answer was, we will not allow genocide to happen again, not to anyone. And we held accountable, not just the people who pulled the trigger or opened up the gas chambers. We held accountable everyone who was a bystander to this and allowed it to happen. So that was just like in my bones from the time I grew up, that I would be dedicated to this proposition that not only that genocide wouldn't happen again, but that I wouldn't stand by and be silent, which is what my lesson was in growing up. And I was just a little kid, sitting on my mother's lap. I remember having these conversations that you do not stand by when injustice is happening.
That's
so, so that kind of launched me into a life of activism, much like people of my background in Jewish Voice for Peace or Not in Our Time. This is just a compelling imperative, like it is for so many African Americans, so many, Christian Americans, church-going people, Muslims, people of no religion who are just, they're humanists and they support an agenda of human rights. I do not understand those people whose eyes are closed to this. How can you close your eyes to children being massacred? I don't get it at all. But I set out to help, help the world in struggle, in pain, in suffering, became a doctor. In short, I saw very clearly, excuse me, these rising epidemics at the time that I was, first going into medical practice.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have an epidemic of asthma in children. We didn't. That was new. We didn't have an epidemic of diabetes in kids, or high blood pressure, or this epidemic of depression and hopelessness among young people. So at any rate, I saw like our genes don't change overnight. What's changing? It's clearly the social and physical and chemical environment that we're living in. And as I joined communities then in struggle against poverty, which is a big driver of death and disease and misery, communities struggling against food deserts, against air pollution, against, all these, polluting facilities that get forever shoved into the marginalized communities struggling for their housing. As I began to work in those areas to help protect our health, because that's where our health, you make or break your health really by what's going on in the community around you. Access to healthcare is really important, but by itself, that isn't going to make us healthy. We need healthy communities. We need dignified, respected communities.
That's right.
That are funded, not disinvested, not exploited, not polluted and poisoned, and denied nutrition and stuff like that. So I went to work to help in those struggles. And basically I discovered if we want to fix any of that, we have to fix the mother of all illnesses, our sick political system that partners with the biggest economic and political predators out there, the economic and political elites that are working overtime to keep things as they are. And they're not only working to keep things as they are, they're also, blaming, shaming, fear campaigning, smearing, and then undermining and spying on and infiltrating, the Black Panthers, our campaigns, those who are standing up, the climate justice movement. You have the uniparty, the political and economic elites who are doing everything they can to overturn us. And the American people aren't going to sit here and take it anymore. And the whistle has been blown.
Mm-hmm.
And like Malcolm X said, we are not outnumbered, we're out organized. Because so many people have been thrown under the bus. If you saw the Breakfast Club interview,
terrible. Terrible. Oh my gosh. I did a whole 2-hour live stream just talking about how despicable you all were treated. It was just, you were attacked. You literally got brought on there and you were attacked from the beginning of the interview to the end of the interview. But all it did was expose a lot of people to you, and people just started grabbing. It made their attack, it backfired on them, Doc.
Exactly. And practically every mainstream interview that we've had has been an ambush. And it's not like they're asking us new questions. We're like totally prepared to make mincemeat out of them, which is pretty much what we do most of the time. And people are pissed off. People are really angry that the Democrats in particular that are trying to destroy political opposition. But that's
wait a minute, Dr. Stein. It's the Democratic Party, the ones who profess that they want to save the democracy. They're the ones that have been trying to tear down the Green Party.
They should be renamed.
I'm being sarcastic, by the way.
Yes, and we have renamed them the Anti-Democratic Party. They're not just like undemocratic; they're anti-democratic, and they really piss people off who feel like these dudes are taking our choices away from us. There's a poll that I just saw today for the first time. This was done by Gallup. They do this poll every year. And the number of people who are saying, we need a third party that's not bought and paid for, that's not a fully owned subsidiary of Wall Street and the war machine. We need an independent public interest party, which is what we are. So those numbers, they take this poll every year. Mm-hmm. And this time it's shot up to an all-time record high. It's now 63% of Americans who are demanding another political choice. And yet you have and this is up 7 points just in the last year alone. And what is it that the Democrats are doing? This is what they're doing. They are denying you the choice that the American voter is screaming for. And the Democrats are doing this basically with lies and disinformation. So every time they come after us, they just, we're saying, bring it on, please throw us into the briar patch, because you're just shooting yourself in the foot. You are exposing what an authoritarian, anti-democratic political force you are. And it has really helped, it has helped activate a whole lot of people. If you read the comments, like to the Breakfast Club or to any other of these progressive media, like even Democracy Now! Is not a green platform. It's usually, overflowing with Democrats and apologists, I must say. Mm-hmm. But if you read the commentary, it's like intensive, just overjoyed. Oh my God, there is a campaign that's standing up for the healthcare and the housing and the reparations and the canceling student debt and the free higher education that we deserve, and acting on the climate crisis like it's a crisis, not just an opportunity for disaster capitalism, which is kind of how the Democrats treat it. There's a campaign that's out there for us, and comment after comment is, I wasn't going to vote in this election. Now I'm going out and I am registering green. I'm voting for Stein Ware.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bring it on.
No, yeah, absolutely. But what do you say to people who say things like, "Oh, a vote for a third-party candidate is a vote for Trump"? What do you say to that? People say, "Oh, you're throwing your vote away if you vote for a third-party candidate." What do you say to people like that?
I say, that's the self-serving propaganda of the political elites that are terrified that if you actually discover a campaign that's working for you, you're going to vote for it. And this is what the Democrats have been experiencing. Well, actually, a little different. They've been losing votes massively. And the biggest loss was in 2010, the midterm elections in 2010. They lost 1,000 seats in state legislatures across the
Wow.
country. They lost 64 seats in Congress. It's like right now they have this huge tug of war over 3 or 4 or 5 seats. They lost 64, and they lost 12 seats in the Senate and 12 governorships. What was that about? There were no third parties stealing votes, so-called, or even competing with them in the midterms, not in any significant way. And here they had this massive shift to the right. Why? Because the Democratic Congress, Senate, and White House, the Democratic trifecta, had just bailed out Wall Street, given trillions of dollars to the crooks that crashed the economy with the housing, fraud and abuse, crashed the economy, and they bailed them out instead of the homeowners who were cheated out of their, not only their lifetime savings, but their whole family savings. And this was especially the African American community, that has really struggled, having been redlined, has struggled for economic security. And there went so many homeowners in the African American community, and likewise, Black businesses were the ones to suffer most of all in COVID. So people are really tired of being thrown under the bus, especially by the Democratic trifecta. So that's why voters have shifted to the right, not because they support Donald Trump. Yes, there are some racists there, but for the most part, these are just everyday people who are being screwed by the Democrats. So people are not so much voting for Donald Trump as they are voting against the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris. And that's going on right now. They could win back those votes if they wanted. Kamala Harris, all she has to say to earn the Muslim vote is to actually not just say, but enact that weapons embargo. And even then, I wouldn't trust it because, they'll change their minds a week after the election. And could they even win back those votes? Well, they could have. They could have done this quite a while ago. They have lost those votes. We are not stealing those votes. Those votes were lost fair and square by Kamala Harris. And now you know what those voters are doing? They're trying to decide whether to vote for our campaign or whether to vote for Donald Trump. So if you're going to say that we're taking votes away, we're actually taking votes away from Donald Trump at this point, more than Kamala Harris. She already lost those votes. So we say, don't listen to that propaganda. That's like being in an abusive domestic relationship, where your abuser, is throwing you under the bus and beating you up and putting your life in jeopardy. And the abused are too often making excuses for them and thinking, oh, it's going to get better next year, or it was just circumstantial or whatever. We need to declare our independence from this political abusive relationship and stand up and demand the future that Frederick Douglass said, we don't get it if we don't stand up and demand it. It's not going to happen. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has and it never will. We have the power to make that demand. 1 out of every 3 voters, I don't know if you know this, Dr. Maat, but in the 2020 election, 1 out of every 3 eligible voters decided not to vote because they didn't want to give their votes to the, to the duopoly being rammed down our throats. And they didn't know that they had an option for them. If we could get the word out to them, it's like for the people who watched the Breakfast Club. People decided, oh, well, now I'm going to vote. Now I know that there is a campaign that's working for me. I am going to vote. 1 out of every 3 voters is enough for us to win this race. You don't need a majority. It's a 4-way race, and there are 3 pro-genocide candidates, including RFK, who's still on the ballot in most states.
Wow. I didn't know he was still on the ballot. And Dr. Stein, and what do you say to folks that the whole lesser of two evils philosophy? What do you say to people that are like, you got to choose? The Green Party doesn't have a chance. So they'll tell you that, and they'll say, you got to choose either red or blue, and just choose the lesser of two evils. And that's what I've been hearing, even as a child. Choose the lesser of two evils. So I know that none of these parties are good for me, but I know one is going to win. So let me at least vote for the one that I think that may be better than the other one. What do you say to that?
I say, where has that gotten us exactly? Where has that gotten us? It's not like things are getting better a little bit at a time. They're actually getting much worse, whether you're looking at, environmental justice and climate racism, or, even economic disparities, it's not one bit better than it was in the 1960s. You still have the average in my home state. Well, actually, this is specific in the greater Boston metropolitan area, but there's very similar data nationally. The average African American household has a net worth, and this is because of debt, has a net worth of $8, while the average white household has a net worth of $250,000.
Well, I just want to say, it's not that. You have slavery, you got Jim Crow, you have systemic racism, you got the drug epidemic, you have,
absolutely.
That's why. But go ahead, Dr. Stein.
Yes, and what that amounts to is families that are in debt, that cannot accumulate wealth. But you are absolutely right. This is the living legacy of racism, of slavery. Slavery, it ended in theory, but it really didn't end. It just rolled over into lynching, into Jim Crow, into mass incarceration, into segregation, redlining, the school to prison pipeline, and it carries on, which is why we're saying you cannot just go for the lesser evil here, because good luck even figuring out which one is the lesser evil, because one of them is saying, one of them is committing genocide, Kamala Harris, and Donald Trump is saying, well, let's hurry up and finish the job. So you don't want either of these characters. And even if there was a difference, by voting for the lesser evil, you erase all evidence of support for what it is that you demand, for healthcare as a human right for everyone, for reparations, for for the rights of migrants not to be treated, not to be driven here in the first place. And we say the most important solution to the migrant crisis is to stop causing it. Let's stop overthrowing governments like in Haiti. Let's stop the sanctions against Cuba and Venezuela, which is destroying their economies. So people come running here out of poverty. We're saying, let's just fix this problem by ending the things that are driving it. That's the number one thing we've got to do. And then there are other things that we can do as well that help actually grow our economy and so on, and respect the dignity of everyone. But we're causing that problem. And in the same way, so much of this, is just it's just nonsense that we can fix, that the American people want to fix. Voting for the lesser evil denies what we're demanding. Denies the movement to stop the genocide, which is the majority. It's 68% of Americans who oppose the genocide and want an immediate ceasefire and a diplomatic solution. It's over 60% of Americans who are saying we want a weapons embargo to the apartheid Zionist state of Israel. We want an immediate weapons embargo. Who would have thought? I never would have thought that I would have seen this in my lifetime, to tell you the truth, because we have Donald Trump and Kamala Harris that compete in that one little pseudo debate that they held. They were competing about who could pledge allegiance more to the state of Israel.
They both did, Dr. Stein. It was sickening. It was sickening. It was
totally
sickening.
Was. Mm-hmm. Yes. And now you have Kamala Harris basically pledging allegiance, not only pledging allegiance, but handing the baton. This White House is supposed to be the commander in chief, but what have they done traditionally? Same with Donald Trump. They've handed that baton over to Israel, to Bibi Netanyahu, to go ahead and do whatever he wants. There is no accountability. After Netanyahu enlarged this genocidal war into the West Bank, then into Lebanon, and then the bombing campaigns in Syria and Yemen, it was right after that invasion of Lebanon, this horrific invasion where thousands of people have already been killed and 10,000 wounded, and their medical system is being destroyed again, which is one of the main tactics of apartheid Israel, which is to destroy the healthcare system, aside from imposing starvation, which is what they're doing in northern Gaza right now. They're doing an extermination campaign, basically to starve everyone to death. That's what they're doing really in all of Gaza. This is absolutely horrific. After they did that, what did the Biden-Harris White House do? They rewarded them with another $8 billion to continue expanding this war. It's absolutely an outrage We have the numbers to stop this, and we really encourage everybody, don't listen to the propaganda. The propaganda tells you that you are powerless, that resistance is futile, and just take marching orders from the predator that's been throwing you and everyone else under the bus. We have the power. And as Alice Walker, the poet and novelist, said, the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with. We've got the numbers, we've got the solutions, we have the values of the American people and the whole darn world that wants to stand up and create a world that works for all of us and an America that works for all of us. It's as complicated as picking up the phone and telling Bibi Netanyahu that this genocide is over.
That's right. And let me ask you this, because you mentioned reparations, and you said it. I mean, you said it on the Breakfast Club. You was like, yeah, the Green Party, we're going to support reparations for Black Americans. And you talked about why. Why do you feel like it's so hard for Kamala to just support? Because they're like, they act like they just can't do it. They try to stay away from the reparations conversation. Why do you think she just can't say, I support reparations? In fact, she did a interview with the Griot, and she said, I'm not going to do anything specifically for Black people. And then she said, no. So why is it, Dr. Stein, that she can't support reparations for Black Americans, even though she purports to be a Black woman, and that she supports to be for Black people?
Yeah, it's like, what's wrong with this picture? Kamala Harris, who was progressive when Bernie Sanders was all the rage, but whose actual track record is for being a cop. It's actually for keeping people in jail, for keeping people on death row who would be exonerated if she would just allow additional evidence. It is her track record for threatening parents with jail time whose kids are not showing up at school. I mean, these families have problems. They need support. They don't need jail time. Kamala Harris, who just really, she's an empty suit. She can't defend what she thinks. You don't know what she thinks. She couldn't distinguish herself from Joe Biden. She has not agreed to allow the Palestinians to be heard, for their plight, to get airtime at the Democratic National Convention, at the nominating convention. She won't meet with them, and she cannot come up with a way that her campaign is different from Joe Biden, except that she will have Republicans in her cabinet.
That's what
she said that, and that she will have a bipartisan advisory committee. So she's making the uniparty official here, and they've rehabilitated Dick Cheney, the biggest war criminal out there, actually, in modern history. He's been given a pass, and there goes Kamala campaigning with his daughter and another apologist for the neocon agenda that's been embraced by the Democratic Party. So, yeah, I mean, we say, don't hold your breath that Kamala is going to do anything. I know, and she's just backed off of all of her policies. She's just running on identity politics right now. So don't waste your time and don't waste your vote. That's a truly wasted vote to affirm genocide. If you vote for either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, you are affirming genocide and you are enabling it. We have the votes to shut genocide down. So for God's sake, stand up for the children who are being massacred right now and say no to it. And in doing that, say yes to an agenda that will actually work for working people, that will demand healthcare as a human right, that will implement rent control across the country. We need a federal emergency rent control program to stop the costs of housing from skyrocketing, and will stop our communities from being gentrified. And then we need to we need a tenant bill of rights so that people can't just be kicked out of their housing, so that the landlord can remodel and raise the rent. We need to stop these private equity corporations from buying up all of our housing, buying up rental housing, buying up permanent housing, keeping it off the market and vacant so they can drive up the price. This is outrageous. We need a vacancy tax as well in order to force vacant housing back onto the market, so that people can, so that big real estate industry can't just sit on this and wait wait for the prices to go up and then sell it. That is outrageous. We need a program of constructing public housing, which we used to have under Bill Clinton. It was outlawed for any more public dollars to be spent on public housing, which is a very important component of public housing. There's way too much, housing right now, which is purely luxury housing. And a lot of our public subsidies now support what's mostly luxury housing with a tiny little sliver of affordability, which is still not even like really affordable. So that's the housing market. We need to actually build housing in the public interest. We call for, in fact, 15 million units of new affordable housing, so-called social housing, which is it's permanent housing for low-income people, and you don't lose it when you get a job or your income goes up. So it doesn't keep you poor, and it creates a mixed income community. It's also concentrated housing, so it doesn't add to sprawl, and it's housing that will come with public transportation, so it doesn't add to air pollution. And it does, it allows people to get rid of their cars, and survive on a quality public transportation system. This is how we provide housing justice at the same time that we provide climate justice and massively ramp down our fossil fuel emissions, which not only make the climate sick, it makes people sick. This is where so much heart disease and asthma and cancers are coming from, fossil fuel pollution. And I do want to just give a shout out there that we are on the ballot now, thanks to the efforts of everyday people across the country. We're on the ballot in this election for most voters. And if you don't see us on the ballot, write us in.
That's what someone just literally said, Dr. Stein. She said, Myra Riddick, one of my supportive parents, she said, despite Dr. Stein not being on DC's ballots, she said ballot as she should have been. She said, I wrote her in and voted for her anyway with exclamation points.
Thank you so much.
So absolutely. But just going back to reparations, because I want my brothers and sisters to hear you talk about your reparations plan for Black people in America.
So reparations is not just like a nice thing to do. It's a debt that's owed. This is like labor. It's like labor. It's also blood, sweat, and tears and lives lost, but it's also a wage. These are like back wages that, never should have been accumulated in the first place. But now the least that we can do is pay these owed wages. And that can be calculated, and it comes to something like $13 trillion. So we favor cash reparations for the people who...
wait a minute, Dr. Stein. You said what type of reparations?
Cash.
Thank you. I just wanted, okay, go ahead, Dr. Stein. I'm listening.
And I realize there is a debate out there about, but mostly the community seems to be very much in favor of cash reparations.
That's right.
It's like, let's pony up. And, that has to get started. That debt has to be paid. And this is the honorable thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And it's absolutely necessary because the legacy of slavery lives on. This didn't die with the Emancipation Proclamation. This is rolled over into all the other forms of white supremacy that currently rule the day in our economy, education, healthcare, health disparities right now. Last I saw the data, there's a 3-year life expectancy that's cut off from Black lives. Black lives are cut 3 years short on average. And then if you add to that the education disparities, because, so many Black children do not have access to quality school systems. So you add that into the mix, and then it's a 10-year loss of life, not just a 3-year loss of life. So this is, high rates of asthma and cancer and, you name it across the board, strokes, just about every illness is happening at higher rates and really destroying lives in a way that's so unjust. As Martin Luther King said, of all forms of injustice, health injustice is the most cruel. It's absolutely true. And it's in every walk of life. The costs of the school systems right now should all be, let me say, there should be federal support so that there is a common base. So we support reparations, cash reparations, but not everybody is eligible for that because cash reparations.
But how much? Because you didn't. I don't think you said the number. What
So
was the number?
it's 13 trillion.
13 trillion. Go ahead,
13
Doctor.
trillion,
Yes,
which
ma'am.
comes out to, quite a chunk of change, but, nothing compared to lives lost and, enslavement and families torn and just the misery that not only took place under slavery, but that has existed ever since.
And you were just saying that everybody that can't. You said so. We said cash, but then you said everybody. So could you? I'm sorry, I cut your thought.
Right.
So,
Right. There's currently a very strong argument that reparations are that the program is most secure for the descendants of slavery. But there are many people who descend from enslaved people who cannot prove that they are descended. So what about them? What about them? And aren't they entitled to settlement as well? Aren't they entitled to support? What if you came here after slavery and then you were just dealing with Jim Crow and lynchings and redlining? That's an issue too. Now, they may not be entitled. Well, put it this way. The Supreme Court could easily shoot down reparations on a racial basis. They can't shoot it down on a legacy basis. They can't shoot that down. So there's a lot of support within the community to do what won't get shot down by the Supreme Court.
Absolutely.
Then that leads a lot more people left. So if you were a descendant of slavery but you can't prove it, that's not fair. It's also not fair if you came here in 1870 and you've been dealing with the legacy of slavery, even though you weren't an enslaved person. There's still a reparation, that you're due as well. And, denied housing, denied, redlined, denied adequate jobs, all of that, the whole legacy of slavery. So, in my view, that has to be addressed as well. And even,
Absolutely.
and that can be addressed by things like, providing healthcare for everyone and attending to the racial disparities in healthcare. That has to be addressed on its own basis because there are so many, lack of access, lack of connection, lack of providers who are also Black. That has a lot to do with health disparities. People need to be offered health care by people that look like them. So we need to bring up, African-American healthcare providers, and just providers, a diverse set of providers. We need to have community-based care, and the barriers to care need to be removed so that no one is having to pay for care at the point of service. Care should be paid for by through a progressive tax base, where the millionaires and the billionaires start kicking in as they should, and that burden is not falling on low-income people, and working people. Their tax burden should be relieved, and the tax burden of the billionaires needs to be ratcheted up massively.
Absolutely. I just keep thinking right now and about, like, while I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about the work of Dr. Neely Fully Jr., who talked about how, we should focus on eliminating, racism and establishing justice in every area of human activity, which includes economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war, counter war, and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing added health. So I keep hearing you talk about that and how, our health is impacted. I want to ask you a question, and shout out to Brother Joel Armstrong. He wants to know, he said, how are you impacted by electoral votes? And so let me put his comment on the screen. He said, here it is. He said, ask her, I guess he's typing fast. So what would she do about the electoral if she was to gain enough votes? He said, would she find support from those who are in charge of the electoral votes? And he said, it would be good to know about the electoral votes and how that affects her. So what are you?
Great. That's a really great question. And this whole thing about the electoral votes, it's very confusing. And the whole institution of electoral votes was created in order to give more power to the slave states, basically. So it's a very anti-democratic institution. We should basically have a popular vote where every vote counts, and states are not misrepresented as the way they are right now. Every vote should count, no matter where you live. And if we get rid of the Electoral College, we can do that, but that will take a constitutional amendment, so that's not happening overnight. So in the meanwhile, what about this electoral vote thing?
Right.
You can win the popular vote, but still lose the election, because it's the electoral votes that count at the end of the day. So in order to earn electoral college votes, you have to win. You don't have to win the majority of the vote. You just have to get the most votes of any candidate in your state. So let's say, like in Michigan, where a lot of people are not going to vote for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, where there are a lot of votes coming to us. What if we actually were the biggest vote getter in Michigan, or it could be any other state? But let's just take Michigan, for example. If we were the biggest vote getter, and in a four-way race, because you got Trump, Harris, RFK, ourselves, and then a few other smaller party candidates. But those are like the four major players. Three of them are all pro-genocide, pro-war, anti-worker. We're the one campaign that brings together, demand for a $25 an hour minimum wage to keep families out of poverty, for healthcare as a human right, for affordable housing as a human right, et cetera, for free higher education. The cost of higher education hurts Black families most, and Black students most, because often out of economic need, people will need to drop out, and then you're left with the debt and no way to basically repay it because you don't have the degree. So this is really hurting African American students. So we could earn, let's say, the majority of the vote in any particular state. Let's say, again, Michigan. You can, by earning, and I should take back the word majority, the biggest chunk, sometimes the word for that is plurality. We have to earn the most votes of any of the candidates. And because that vote is being split many ways, you could actually earn the most with as little as 26%. So we don't have to win 51% of the votes in Michigan. We could win simply 26% and have more votes than anyone else. If we get 26% of the votes, we get all of the electoral votes in Michigan.
So that's how it works.
That's how it works.
Okay.
And then if we have those votes, neither Donald Trump nor Kamala Harris can win without having these critical swing states. So those votes would make us a kingmaker. In other words, we could say to Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, well, who's going to actually fund reparations? Who's going to end the genocide in Gaza? Who is going to cut the military budget in order to fund what we need right here at home, instead of destroying, the lives of millions of people around the world, which is what our military machine does. It's an endless war machine. We can begin to bargain as the kingmaker and see who then will step up. And what you can do as the candidate who won that election, we can then instruct our electoral voters. You get people who are voting in the Electoral College. We can instruct them, who are pledged to us, who to vote for based on a bargain that we make.
No, absolutely. And someone wants to know your position on taxes. They say, what is her position on taxes? Because we hear Donald Trump, like, I'm going to give, so everyone's talking about taxes, like their position on taxes. Kamala, has accused him of giving, tax breaks to the rich. She's like, I'm going to give tax breaks to the poor. What is your position on taxes?
Well, it's important to sort the talk from the walk. So they all talk about what they're gonna do, but every time the Republicans give away, they do a big give back to the wealthy. It's the billionaires and the big corporations that aren't paying their fair share of taxes. Their taxes have been cut, and taxes on working people have been raised. And every time, like George Bush did that, Barack Obama extended it. Instead of phasing it out, which it was supposed to do, he extended it. So they're not helping. They've been cutting taxes, the capital gains tax, corporate taxes, the upper income, the income tax is supposed to be so-called progressive. It should be higher for richer people. They can afford to pay more, and they should. And they get more benefits from the public services that are provided in our society. So they should be paying more with income. We should not have regressive taxes, which are hardest on low income and working people. So that's their track record. They have not, the Democrats, just because Kamala Harris is going to talk about how great she is, she allowed the child tax credit to expire, which tripled the rate of poverty in children in this country. Thanks to their tax actions, poverty rates in children tripled. And who was it that had implemented that tax break for kids? That was actually Trump. That was one of the few good things he did. He did that during COVID. But overall, he's given away the store to the billionaires. So, they both have a terrible track record. What we call for is cutting taxes, again, for low income, middle income, working people should have a lowered tax burden right now. And we should be implementing a wealth tax. Right now, we don't tax wealth, we tax income. So a lot of people who don't have annual income, but are sitting on piles of inherited wealth, and there's a huge deduction now for inherited wealth. Inherited wealth is like aristocracy. This is not what should be given away tax-free. There's a reason for taxing inherited wealth so that we have a democracy, so that you don't inherit. I mean, you can inherit some wealth, but let's not inherit huge levels of wealth. And right now, that's what the so-called inheritance tax does. It allows massive wealth to be transferred, from generation to generation, which is not fair, because then privilege only intensifies over the course of time. So we have to fix that. We have to ensure that there is tax justice, that large corporations and the wealthiest are paying their fair share, that we have a wealth tax, that we have a Wall Street tax, a tax on Wall Street transactions, because there's a huge amount of money there, which is another pot to support public services.
Dr. Stein, I just keep thinking about, just as you talk, different people come in my mind. First, it was Dr. Neely Fully Jr. Now I'm thinking about Mr. Shapiro. He wrote a book called The Hidden Cost of Being an African American, and the subtitle was how wealth perpetuates inequality. And you just spoke to that. So I know we're getting ready to wrap up, but Dr. Stein, let me ask you this: you went into the community and you talked to, I want to say, gang members. You said vice lords, like you were in the community. I've never seen, Kamala and Trump would not go and have a conversation with the vice lords or have a conversations with Bloods or Crips, but you were there, and they said, we endorse her, we want her. What made you go right into the community and have a conversation with those folks, our people? What made you do that, Dr. Stein? Because I just thought it was wonderful, because now they're involved in politics. And I remember Malcolm X said that America will fall to his knees when the gangster, and I'm probably butchering the quote, but he said when the gangster adopts a political consciousness, something along those lines, Dr. Stein. And so he said that. So what made you go there?
It was actually, people from, I think it was in Milwaukee, in fact, where at a campaign event, we were in Milwaukee originally for the Republican National Convention. We were there, to protest it. And there's a whole movement in Milwaukee to sort of bring together a community of empowerment for people who've been locked out. And there's especially an amazing community there opposing police violence, and that's lifting up the community, and that's really helping to work with youth at risk, and providing after school programs and mentoring, and that actually works with many of the formerly incarcerated, many of the former gang members who have changed their ways and who are now just pillars of community support. And we've seen just really great work that they have been doing. And, so this was people from that community who came to us and said, we really want to work with you. We want to introduce you to our community so you can support the good work that we're doing, and you can help bring youth programs and quality
Yes.
schools and end the school to prison pipeline and the, solitary confinement for youth, and for trying youth as, putting them into, into the criminal injustice system as adults, which is often happening, that people who are, surrounded by violence, and who are engaged in lives of violence at young ages, and who are selling drugs because it's the only way they can earn money to help support their families. This community needs a break. This community needs justice. It needs
Yes.
restorative justice. And the more we got involved in that conversation, the more powerful and persuasive it was. And, I've known many former Black Panthers who have actually become members of the Green Party.
Yeah.
And just seeing how they were targeted, how they were framed, in fact, in the same way that civil rights activists were framed. Martin Luther King was framed. They've had the security state and the police state has had it out for, the organizers of political resistance. And Malcolm X, was set up, and, just very powerful community advocates have been targeted, put into jail, and also assassinated. And, so it was just really very eye-opening to see the power of the community, the uplift that the community is already engaged in for itself. Like the Panthers, what did they do? They provided free breakfasts.
They sure did.
Yeah, and support. And if people needed protection from the KKK coming into their community, that's my understanding about really where gangs started from.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Like you said, it was about protection. It wasn't it was protection. It was helping the community, you know, but of course, racist America gives it, the gangs is killing. That's not what it was about. And I want to shout out Zakir before we close out. He said, Dr. Jill, he said it was good to finally meet you on Monday. He said we've got 1,400 new Greens registered. He said in Arizona, he says the Palestinian community is ready to vote green, and we're only getting started in AZ. He said abandon Harris. Zakir, salute to you, man, for the work that you all are doing in Arizona, man, and organizing and mobilizing. And so salute to all the work that you're doing out there, warrior. Keep up the work. So Doc, I got to drop a bomb for you because I know we got to get ready to get out of here because you're very, very busy. So let me drop this bomb for you. Fire! 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 Let me drop the bomb for you, Dr. Stein. Drop that bomb for you. What do you need from us? I want to end with that. What do you need the people to do to help you meet your goals?
So, I think the African-American community, the marginalized communities have been really leading the way here for a long time. And I think what we need to do for each other is to, build solidarity for the long haul. And right now, what that means is the stronger we finish here, the stronger we finish standing up for a politics that's of, by, and for the people, that's not bought and paid for by the AIPAC and the war contractors. This is like, we are the alternative, we are the ones we've been waiting for. The stronger we finish, the better our fight is going forward. And we're in this for the long haul, as so many people are who've been joining in. And I also want to shout out to Zakir and the amazing organizing that he's been doing in Arizona. Yeah, there are so many people who are joining the cause. And this is African Americans, it's Muslim Americans, it is the Hispanic community. It's all kinds of people who've really been thrown under the bus. It's working people. Shama Sawant and Workers Strike Back is working with us now and supporting our campaign. It's Abandon Harris. It's so many groups who've decided we're going to take charge here. We got the numbers. As Malcolm X said, we are not outnumbered, we're just out organized. So we are resolving to organize and to organize together for the long haul. For the next week, people are paying attention. So I urge everyone to go to our website, jillstein2024.com. If you go to that website, you can sign up to volunteer. There are resources and materials right there on the website. You could start flyering, you could be tabling, you could be passing this out. And above all, it's the community of color, lower income, younger. That's exactly who gets totally lit on fire here. Yes, there's lots of merch out there. You can make a contribution by purchasing merch to help get the word out, and by working here together, we can seize this moment. There's a tsunami of resistance right now that is rising up in this last week before the election. You can help get the word out by phone banking, and we have a phone bank script for you. We have numbers that you can call, so you can help in a very organized way by joining in and helping us get the word out. Your vote can be turned into potentially hundreds more votes if you have some time to put in to own this campaign and to own your future and to refuse to be thrown under the bus anymore, refuse to be denied, to be thrown into debt, denied education, denied housing, denied health care that should be human rights for all of us. By standing up and standing together, we can transform our future starting now. If we get to 5%, we have automatic ballot access then in most states. And also we have a big chunk of public funding to jumpstart the next election. So 5% is a very big goal. One other thing I don't think I mentioned, Dr. Maat, which is that the military draft is back. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. That draft
please speak on it.
Yeah. So when Kamala Harris pledges allegiance to Bibi Netanyahu and lets him become the commander-in-chief, lets him expand this genocidal war into Lebanon and bombing runs in Syria and Yemen, and when Israel is preparing to strike Iran, and the U.S. has, basically said, Israel, whatever you do, we're there for you. Our dollars, our diplomatic cover, they could be sucking us into World War III, which is what Bibi Netanyahu has been wanting to do from the start. But what people need to know is it's not just our dollars, it's also our blood. Because our young men right now, and it could become women, but young men are being registered into the draft. You don't have to know about it. You don't have to go sign up. AI knows about you and knows where you are, and you are signed up. If you are under the age of 25, if you're between 18 and 25, you are in the military draft. And Joe Biden and the Biden-Harris administration have also promised boots on the ground for Netanyahu. They've promised support, and they've already sent quite a bit of it. 5,000 soldiers, or rather Navy, enlisted naval servicemen and women are already sitting there with these aircraft carriers, battle groups. One of them, 5,000 people off the coast of Iran. Another 5,000 are off the coast of Gaza. So they are ready. There are another 40,000 servicemen and women from the U.S. sitting there in the Middle East. They're sitting ducks when the conflict breaks out. And Biden-Harris already sent another 100 boots on the ground to Israel to work this new missile defense system. And they've said they will send more. So we should not be passive about this. Our lives are on the line here, just like our dollars are on the line. We're being impoverished by this endless war machine, of which the genocide is just one expression. So we have to stand up and fight this genocide, and we have to stand up and fight the empire and colonialism, which is the basis of U.S. foreign policy right now. So we have to stand up not only because it's the wrong thing to do, that empire is wrong, that genocide is the moral imperative of the moment, but we have to stand up because our lives are very much at risk. All young people under 25 and over 18, if you're male, you're in the list, and you could get sent over there. So do not take their happy talk for granted. Do not go back to brunch, which is what they want you to do. Do not vote for the lesser evil, because there is no lesser evil. They're both expanding a genocidal war right now that could suck you into it. So really take on this election like it's your life that's on the line, because it really is. Join us at jillstein2024.com. Let's get the word out, because 1 out of every 3 eligible voters otherwise won't vote. If they know about us, if they hear it from you, they will vote. And if we all stand up together, we can actually win the White House and turn it into a greenhouse and make the world a better, safer, greener, more secure place for all of us. So
absolutely, Dr. Stein. Family, right now, drop your green hearts in the chat. We want to show her some love, and not just with green emojis. We're going to go out there. We're going to vote green, family. So drop your green hearts in the chat right now. Let's give her flowers while she can smell them. Dr. Stein, we appreciate you, all that you have done for our people, all that you are doing. You've been a warrior. You've been unapologetic on your stances, on your positions. And I'm going to show you the hearts. I don't know if you can see the screen. I'm showing them to you. I don't know if you can see them. They're dropping their green hearts in the chat for you.
Awesome.
You see them?
I am not seeing the chat on my screen. I'm seeing, yes, okay, I am seeing them. Flash them.
Yes, yes.
Oh, awesome.
I'm showing it. We appreciate you, Dr. Stein. And someone said it in the chat. They said it just feels so good. They said it just feels so good to have, someone with intelligence, someone with passion, someone who hasn't sold out to big corporations. And so we appreciate you, Dr. Stein. You have our support. Some of us have already voted. They've mailed in votes. Some of us voted for you, early voting. And some people will be voting on November the 5th for you and for Dr. Butch Ware. And so again, I thank you for your time. I talked to your scheduler. You're everywhere. You got 15 things going on each day. And so Dr. Stein, go get some rest. Go get some rest, because we need you. We need you strong. So go get some rest. We thank you. We thank you. We thank you. And I hope, Doc, that you'll come back post-election, fill us in on what's going on with you, and just, you and I can chop it up, okay?
Okay, let's do it. It's a deal. Great talking with you, meeting you, Sister Soldier.
Nice talking to you. Peace and love to you. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
All right, family. You heard from her. You saw her. You heard from her. And didn't she bring it like I told you she was going to bring it? She brought it, family. She talked about reparations. She talked about the climate issues. She talked about the housing issues. She brought it, family. No other candidate is talking like this. And not only talking, because she corrected, she said talking, but what about walking? No one's talking it and walking it like Dr. Jill Stein and Dr. Butch Ware. I'm sorry. So, I mean, whoever you want to vote for, that is your prerogative. Okay, that is your prerogative. But you heard from Dr. Jill Stein. You heard from Dr. Butch Ware. You heard from Dr. Cornel West. You heard from Dr. Melina Abdullah. And so why is Dr. Maat putting these people in front of you? I want you to know that you have options, family. Don't listen to the media that tell you you got to vote red or blue no matter who. No. You have options. And when you cease to exercise your options, that's when you become a slave. Let me say that one more time. Dr. Maat is putting these people in front of you so that you know that you have options. And when you seek to know, let me add that, when you seek to know about your options, and when you cease to know about your options, and when you cease to exercise your options, then you become a slave. Okay? Because slaves don't have a choice. Okay? And so we're not slaves. We are freedmen. Let me say that one more time. We're not slaves. We are freed men and freed women. And so, family, let's act like it. Let's act like freed men, and let's act like freed women. Ashe, drop an ashe in the chat if you hear what I'm saying to your family. Drop an ashe in the chat if you hear what I'm saying. So, family, before you get out of here, thumb up this video, thumb it up, thumb it up, thumb it up. Also, take the link, family, share this video, share it. Everyone is in group chats now with your friends, with your families, right? With your family. throw this link in the group chat and say, family, you got to see this interview. Let's spread the word, family. Let's spread the word. And also, family, make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so that whenever I go live, you will be notified. And I actually got a call from my aunt Segmet who told me that YouTube is turning off notifications for my channel. So she got to keep on turning on notifications. So family, make sure that your notifications are turned on so that whenever I go live, you are notified, family. All right? Man, I may or may not be live on Sunday since I went live today, but if your notifications are on, you will know. All right, family, thank you for pulling up. I love you all. You could have been anywhere in these YouTube streets. You could have been anywhere, but you were right here with Dr. Maat and Dr. Jill Stein. So I thank you for your mind, your time, and your behind. Peace and Black excellence.
Let's combat and fight back with MELTREK. The war of the minds, they want control of the masses. And Common Core, they dumb us down in the classes. Without knowledge, we can't gain access. Build with the elders, take notes and write classes. We keep whining on the block, how it's gonna stop? Let's start supporting our own, make their supply drop. We buy stocks, then we buy blocks. Cause we know the truth and we tuned in to Dr. Maat.